Here we're going to talk about how to solve problems that specifically say to solve them via the substitution method. And so when you see a question like this, here's an example. You're always going to see y equals something that involves an x on the other side, and then an expression that involves both x and y in the second equation, and that equals something. This is generally how the substitution method problems in the GED test are set up. So what you need to know before you can solve these problems are two things, really. One is you need to know what the distributive property is. So if you don't know what that is, you need to watch the video on mathematical properties. And two, you need to know how to solve basic algebraic equations. So if you don't know how to do that, you need to watch that video as well. So when you see the word substitution, solve by the substitution method. Substitution just means you're going to replace something that's equal into something else, right? You substitute things. So here in the first equation, we have y equals something. And in the second equation, we have the same y. So all we're going to do is substitute this expression in for that y. Now your answers, if you look at the answers, you're always going to have answers that say x equals something and y equals something. There'll be multiple choice questions, and they'll say x equals 5, y equals 2, x equals 3, y equals 10. So what you're trying to do in these questions is to figure out what does x equal and what does y equal, so that both of these equations are true. So for example, if you put 5 in for x in both of these equations and you put 2 in for y in both of these equations, then both of these equations hold true. Now, those aren't the right answers, so that's not going to work, but we'll see how to get to the right answer. And there's two ways I'm going to show you how to get to the right answer. The first way is what I would deem more the algebraic way, and the second way is more trial and error. So here we have two equations. Y equals 6x minus 2, 3x plus 4y equals 46. So we're going to substitute for y, since it equals 6x minus 2, we're going to substitute that in for that y. That's why this thing is called the substitution method. So using this equation, instead of writing it like this, we're going to write 3x plus 4. Now we're going to, instead of y, since y equals 6x minus 2, we're going to substitute that. So remember, when you write something in parentheses, it just means times. So this is 4 times y, so this is 4 times 6x minus 2. We've just substituted that in for y. Now this is where you need to know how to do the distributive property, because we're going to simplify this equation. So we're going to distribute 4 over this. So 4 times 6 is 24x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, equals 46. Since both of these have x's on them, we can add them together. So 3x plus 24x is just 27x. Here's where you need to know how to do basic algebra equations. We need to solve for x. So how do we get rid of that 8? Since we minus 8, we're now going to add 8. If we add 8 to one side, we have to add 8 to the other side. So we have 27x equals 46 plus 8 is 54. How do we get x by itself? We divide each side by 27, and we get x equals 2. So now we know what x equals, but we still have to figure out, what does y equal? Well, we know y equals 6x minus 2. So I'm going to come up here. Y equals 6x minus 2. We know x equals 2. So we're just going to plug that in for x. Y equals 6 times 2 minus 2. Y equals 12 minus 2. Y equals 10. So our answer will be x equals 2, y equals 10. That's the answer that you need to look for in the multiple choice answers. That's one way to solve this problem. Now, if you get to the test and you absolutely cannot remember what the substitution method is, then I'm going to show you another way to solve it, which is more of what I would call a trial and error method. So let's say, so for each of these you're going to have, it's going to be a multiple choice question. Let's say the first answer, A, is x equals 3, y equals 5. So remember, when you put these numbers in for the x's and the y's, both of these equations have to be true in order for this answer to be correct. So we can just test them. So if so we're going to look at this equation, y equals 6x minus 2. If y equals 5, we'll just put 5 in for y. 6x, well, if x equals 3, we'll just put 3 in for x minus 2. So I just took this equation, y equals 6x minus 2, substituted 5 in for the y, and 3 in for the x. So we have 5 equals, 6 times 3 is 18. 5 equals 18 minus 2 is 16. Well, that's not true. 5 does not equal 16. So we know this answer is not right. So you'd go to the second answer. Let's say the second answer is x equals 4, y equals 22. Again, start with the first equation. If y equals 22, 6 times x, 4. 22 equals 6 times 4 is 24. 22 equals 22. Ah, that checks out. So this might be the right answer. But it can't just hold for the first equation, it also has to be true for the second equation. So we have to try it for the second equation too. So now we take the second equation. 3 times x, x equals 4, plus 4 times y, y equals 22, equals 46. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 22 is 88. 12 plus 88 is 100. 100 does not equal 46. So this doesn't hold. So this answer also is not correct because it has to be true for both equations. So let's see. Let's say C is x equals 2, y equals 10. So we'll once again go to the first equation. Y equals 10, so 10 equals 6 times x, which is 2, minus 2. 10 equals 12 minus 2, 10 equals 10. That checks out. This could be the right answer. But we have to go to the second equation. 3 times x, x is 2, plus 4 times y is 10, equals 46. 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 10 is 40, 6 plus 40 is 46. That checks out. So that is the right answer. So then you could stop, go to the next question. So this, if you can't remember how to do the algebraic substitution method, you can just do trial and error. Just look at each of the answers, plug the x and y values into each one. If you get one that matches, good. It might be the right answer, but you can't just look at the first equation. You also have to look at the second equation. When both of those, when you plug the numbers in, come out correct, you've found the right answer. I'm going to do one more example by just doing the algebraic way, just to remind you how we did that. Let's say we have y equals 3x plus 10. This can be a little bit more complicated because we're going to use negative numbers. Second equation, 2x minus y equals negative 13. So again, we're going to do the same methodology using the algebraic method. Here we have y equals 3x plus 10, so we're going to substitute this expression in for that y. And we're going to have 2x minus y, which is 3x plus 10, equals negative 13. Now remember, be careful, this is a minus, so you're minusing the whole expression. And remember, there's really a 1 out here. So we're going to distribute through, So negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 10 is negative 10. 2x minus 3x is negative x. Now we're back to a basic algebra problem. How do we solve for x? First we want to get rid of that 10 by adding 10. Negative x, that makes 0. Negative 13 plus 10 is negative 3. You can get rid of the negative by dividing by negative 1. If you divide both sides by negative 1, you're going to get x equals 3. Intuitively, it just makes sense. If negative x equals negative 3, then positive x has to equal 3. So now we know what x is. So but we still need to solve for y, so we're going to go back to this equation. We're going to plug in for x, we're going to plug in 3. 3 times 3 plus 10. Y equals 9 plus 10. Y equals 19. So our answer, x equals 3. Y equals 19. That's the answer you would look for in the answer key, or in the answer choices.